Bibles, turn to Matthew chapter 7, excuse me, verses 21 through 23. Okay, or you can follow along up on the screen. "And not everyone that saith unto me, Lord, Lord, shall enter into the kingdom of heaven, but he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. Many will say to me in that day, Lord, Lord, have we not prophesied in thy name? And in thy name we have cast out devils, and in thy name done many wonderful works. And then will I profess unto them, I never knew you. Depart from me, ye that work iniquity." Now that verse 23 has got to be one of the scariest verses in the Bible. Depart from me, I never knew you. Now, we say we know God, but do we really? Or maybe do we just know who he is? Big difference between knowing somebody and knowing who that person is. Matthew 15, verses 7 and 8 says, "Ye hypocrites, well did Isaiah prophesy of you, saying, This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but the heart is far from me." People paying lip service, they say, but don't do. There are those that have the attitude of do as I say, not as I do. Well, the Pharisees, they were a lot of times, many times, the object of Jesus' anger because of the way they acted. They told the people, do this, but they themselves didn't do it. They acted a different way. And then they added to the law what they thought people should do as well. And so Jesus talked about that. He said, they teach for doctrine the commandments of men. They told people to do things that God never said. So they paid God lip service. They said they knew him, but they didn't really. Because if they did, they would have stuck with just what the law said, not adding their own stuff. And actually doing what the law said and not doing it. Now, people can claim to know somebody when they really don't. They just kind of know about them. For example, if I were to go to D.C. and tell whichever, probably Marines, I think it is, at the gate, I know President Trump, you need to let me in, they would, be polite and say, no, sir, you can't do that. However, if he came to the front door and said, hey, Cyclops, come on, let him in, they would let me in because he knows me. Even though I just claim to know him, if they said he knows me, then they'd let me in. But just because I claim to know somebody doesn't make it true. Doesn't mean I actually know them. I know who President Trump is. I would be able to pick him out in the crowd. But that doesn't mean I know him. We say we know God, but do we really know him? Does he know us? Isaiah 43:1, God was speaking to Israel then, but it applies to Christians today. "But now thus saith the Lord that created thee, O Jacob, and he that formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee, I have called thee by thy name, thou art mine." It is overwhelming to me to think that little old me, in the grand scheme of the entire universe, he knows my name. He knows your name, your name, your name. He knows us each and calls us each by name. The Bible also says that God telleth the number of the stars and calls them all by name. He knows exactly how many there are, and he has a name for each one. He knows exactly who we are. He calls us by name. He knows us. We know him. So we say we know him. That can be a good thing, but the more important thing is whether he knows us. Are we actually one of his? Have we been grafted into the vine? In Bible study, we've been talking about being joint heirs with Jesus. I mentioned before, my sister is adopted. That people ask me how old was she when we adopted her. I say 5, and she'll correct me and say no, 5.5. But she is adopted. She is part of our family. She has our name. She is, she gets an equal portion of my parents' stuff if they happen to pass on before the Lord comes back. The same amount that my brother and I, as biological children of theirs, my sister gets an equal portion because she has been grafted into our family, just like we are grafted into God's family. We are brothers and sisters of Jesus. We've been adopted. God is our Father, Jesus His Son. We are Jesus' brothers and sisters. We are joint heirs. We get an inheritance from our kingly Father. But that's if He knows us. Truly, if He knows us, that's a very, very good thing. We can claim to know Him. That would be a good thing as long as He knows who we are. Now, Jeremiah 1:5, the first part of it says, "Before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee." So before we were even a twinkle in our parents' eyes, God knew us. He had a plan. He has a plan for each and every one of us. We, as the mere mortals that we are, tend to mess things up, at least a little bit. So God has what He would like for us to do, but then we get in our own way, and a lot of times we don't do what God wants us to do. Imagine that. But He still has the plans. He knows the plans He has for us. We don't always know what it is, and sometimes we have to just take one step at a time, not even one day at a time, just one step at a time. And we may not see but just a little part of what's right in front of us. You know, the psalmist wrote, "Thy word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path." And back in Bible times, the lamps weren't like what we have now that illuminate a lot of area in front of us to see. It illuminated what was right in front of them. So they had to look down a lot to keep from tripping over stuff. But it shone right in front of their feet to see that they wouldn't. So that's what he was saying, "The lamp unto my feet, the light unto my path." We want to look out and see the big picture. We won't always see the big picture. We may just see what's right in front of us for a given time during the night time. But as long as our Father knows us, He will never lead us down a bad path. If we trip and stumble, it's because of us. Because we take our eyes off of Him and put them on our circumstances, or we just get distracted and trip over a rock somewhere. But He's still there to lift us up, dust us off, and to continue on. Now, John 10:14, Jesus said, "I am the good shepherd and know my sheep and am known of mine." So we know Him, He knows us. That is the criteria of being a child of God. He knows us as well as us knowing Him. Again, we can say, "I know somebody," but we really don't. Just somebody I meet on the street, yeah, I know him. I don't know him. I may have met him, but I don't know him. So as long as it's a two-way street, we know them, they know us, then we can say, "Yeah, I know that person." As long as God says, "Yes, I know him, I know her, they are my children." But if we don't do, like Jesus said, "He that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven." And to know what the will of the Father is, just open this. It tells us exactly what He wants us to do. Ecclesiastes chapter 12 says that, in a nutshell, love God, obey His commandments. This is the whole duty of man. Love God, obey His commandments. It's very simple. 5 words. but it's so difficult for us to actually do. It's easy to read and easy to tell others, but when it comes to us, it's not so easy. We become like the Pharisees who say, this is what you need to do, but we don't do it ourselves. Do we really know God? Or more importantly, does God really know us? Are we His? Or are we just passers-by, kind of waving to somebody as we go by? Being known even in the spirit world. In the book of Acts, chapter 19, verses 13 through 16. Then certain of the vagabond Jews, exorcists, took upon them to call over them which had evil spirits by the name of the Lord Jesus, saying, We adjure you by Jesus whom Paul preacheth. And there were 7 sons of one Sceva, a Jew, and a chief of the priests, which did so. And the evil spirit answered and said, Jesus I know, and Paul I know, but who are ye? And the man in whom the evil spirit was leaped on them, and overcame them, and rebelled against them, so that they fled out of that house naked and wounded. Now the demon, as we call him, who possessed this man, said, okay, I know Jesus, and I know Paul, but I don't know you. I've never heard of you. You're not one of his. You have no power over me. When we are truly known by God, and we are his, then we do have power, his power, through us. These men were trying to rely on their own power, the power of somebody they had heard of, but didn't know. Again, I could say, let me in. I know the president. I've heard of him, so you should let me in. It doesn't work that way, as anybody who might try would find out. But if these Jews actually knew God and God knew them, then they would have had the power over that evil spirit. I would not want to hear somebody say, Jesus I heard of, or Jesus I know, is Paul I know, but who are you? I don't know you. You're nothing. And that was essentially what this evil spirit was saying. Those people I know. You I don't. Because God didn't know them as his children. I know I'm not going to hear, depart from me, I never knew you. But what I want to hear is, well done. That's what I want to hear. We can do right for the wrong reasons. And if we do right for the wrong reasons, then there's, as I've heard put before, getting in by the skin of your teeth. Getting into heaven by the skin of your teeth. Your fire insurance is paid up, as the saying goes. But those kind of people who do the bare minimum may not have a crown to cast back at Jesus' feet. And they may not hear the words, well done, thou good and faithful servant. I know that's what I want to hear. And I want to do right for the right reasons. Not for me, but for him. Because those crowns are not for us to keep. The crown of righteousness, the reward that we get for what we do in this life, is not for us to keep. It's to cast back at Jesus' feet. So, just because we say we know Jesus doesn't make it true. Talk is cheap. You can say whatever, but if what we do doesn't back it up, it means nothing. It's like, you don't want to be like the Pharisees, like I mentioned earlier, who simply pretended to serve God. They were serving themselves. They wanted the praises of men. Jesus said they had their reward. They get the admiration and the pat on the back and the attaboys. So that was their reward then. They were getting their reward in that life. They pretended to serve God. They served Him with their lips, but their heart was far from it. Y'all ever heard of the Christian group DC Talk? Toby McKeegan used to be with them. Anyway, one of the songs that they had started out that the greatest cause of atheism in the world today is Christians who profess God with their lips, then walk out the door and deny Him by their lifestyle. That is what an unbelieving world simply finds unbelievable. So when we say but don't do, we are. Why would anybody want to be like us? You know, I knew people at the bars that, you know, they were genuine. They didn't pretend to be anything but what they were. And I would see a lot of Christians who would say one thing and act another way. You know, it would make me wonder, I wouldn't say, but it would make me wonder, are they really Christians? They don't act like it. You know, they talk a good talk, but they don't walk the walk. And so I wanted nothing to do with Christianity for a long time. But I made the mistake of judging the entire Christian faith by the actions of a few people. But, and I'm sure that's, well, my guess, is that maybe what's going through God's mind too. Why are you saying this but doing that? You're supposed to be my children. Does He really know us? Or do we just say that He knows us? We know Him. Does He know us? You know, verse 21 again. But he that doeth the will of my Father which is in heaven. It's not just saying, but it's also doing. You know, be not hearers of the word only, but doers also. If we talk out of this, we need to do out of this. Do and teach. People learn by example. Are we a good example to others? Do we do what we say? Does God really know us? Or do we just say it because it sounds good? There's a big difference between knowing somebody and knowing about somebody. It's like knowing the author of a book and just knowing about the book. Now, I've read lots of books. I love to read. And I read biographies of the writers. So I know about the authors. But I know this author. And he knows me. And it's not one of those, I hope he knows me. He does know me, because 1 John 5:13 says, these things I write unto you that believe on the name of the Son of God, that ye may know, not just hope, guess, pray, and wonder, but that ye may know you have eternal life. So I know that He knows me. I know in my knower that He knows me. But can everybody who claims to know Him say that? I know I can, personally. And that's between me and God. But can everybody say that? I pray that everybody can. And I realize that it's rather short, and that's really